Counselors may be small in number, but we are very high in quality today. All go well. I'm going to read the letter from the governor. Dear counselors, I'm pleased to nominate Christopher W. Spring to the position of Associate Justice of the Superior Court. I submit this nomination for the advice and consent of the Executive Council pursuant to Part 2, Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Sincerely, Warren T. Healy. It's great to see you. Good morning. It's
Great to be here. Thank you.
You set a record for people calling to recommend you. So I just want to let everybody know the sheer volume. Wonderful, wonderful people calling to speak very highly of you. I was very impressed. Judge David Kunis, Judge Polly Phillips, Chris Doherty also called, Judge Pacifica de Capua, Judge Steve Geary, Judge Andrew Abdella, Judge Leo Farma, Judge Beth Dunnigan, Magistrate Carol Vittorioso, Judge Jack Coffey, Attorney Christy Tyson, Judge Sarah Ellis, Judge Lawrence Pierce, I hope I'm getting that correct, Judge Francis Dahlmeyer, Jen Lennon, Clerk Magistrate for Marlborough, Judge Asha White, Judge John Ravelli, Judge Jane Haggerty, Judge Robert Pellegrini, and Judge Brenda Mule. Wrote me an absolutely lovely letter. And so I am delighted to begin this hearing. Would you like to introduce the folks you brought with you today?
Oh, please. Thank you very much. So I have my sister, Abby Luciano, my parents, Peter and Susan Spring, my wife, Meg Streff Spring, and on the other side, my witnesses, Justice Zach Hillman, Judge Lynn Rooney, the Chief Justice of the Superior Court, Mike Raschuti, Dara Kesselheim, my childhood friend, Jeevan Ramapriya, the handsome young man in the corner. And I think that's it.
Very good. Then let's begin with your first witness, Judge Lynn Rooney.
So good morning. I want to thank the members of the Governor's Council for allowing me the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Lynn Rooney. I was appointed to the District Court bench 20 years ago, and I've been sitting in the Superior Court now for about 4 years. It truly is an honor for me to speak on behalf of Christopher Spring. I've known Chris for over 20 years now. And during that time, I've had the opportunity to see him in a number of different settings, both in and out of the courtroom. Chris is an exceptional attorney. He is intelligent, extraordinarily well-versed in the law, and consistently well-organized and prepared. I met Chris the first time when we worked in the Middlesex District Attorney's Office together, and I had the opportunity to supervise many of his Superior Court cases when he was a trial lawyer. Later, when I was sitting in the district court, Chris would appear before me as a bar advocate on many occasions. Whenever I walked out onto the bench and I saw that Chris Spring was one of the bar advocates assigned for the day, I was incredibly happy because I knew that because of Chris's incredible work ethic and his willingness to assist the court in any way, that the work would get done quickly, efficient, but most importantly, every single person would have a full and fair opportunity to be heard because he took the time to get to know the people, even if he only had a few minutes. Chris's name was always at the top of the list of the attorneys that were in the courthouse that you thought of when you needed some help. It's because of his nature, his kindness, his ability to get along with every staff member. And it didn't matter if it was the court officer at the front door, the attorneys on the other side of the cases, the probation officer in the courtroom, or the assistant clerk at the counter. He was always a gentleman. He has an incredible reputation for fairness and honesty among the bar and court personnel. He is equally kind and respectful to every person, no matter what job they have or what circumstance they may find themselves in. And I have no doubt that he will bring the same selflessness to the Superior Court. I have come to appreciate during my 20 years on the bench that the most important qualities that a judge can have is humility, a willingness to learn, and compassion for the people that come before you. And Chris Spring has all of those attributes and then some. And over the past few years, I've been lucky enough to get to know Chris and his family on a more personal level. And I want to speak a moment about Chris as a person. Chris's mother-in-law was diagnosed with Alzheimer's several years ago. And anyone who has watched someone struggle with this disease knows how gut-wrenching it is to watch a person forget their entire lifetime. My mom has been suffering it with this disease for some time, so I can tell you that there are days when I cannot bear to go and see her. Chris knew that his wife Meg felt that way sometimes too. So what he did is he went and he sat with his mother-in-law. She didn't ask him to. No one asked him to. He didn't tell anyone that he was going. He just went. And it didn't matter that she didn't know who he was. It didn't matter that she would forget that he was there the moment he walked out of the door. And even though she could be a little mean-spirited at times, it didn't matter. He still kept going, and he still held her hand, and he sat by her bedside. That tells you what a remarkable person he is and what a huge heart he has. And you don't see that every day. You just don't find people like that every day. Chris is going to be a tremendous asset to the Superior Court because he cares about people. He cares about justice, and he treats everyone with dignity and respect. I know that he will bring his wealth of experience as a lawyer in both criminal and civil law to the Superior Court bench, and we will be the better for it. I cannot recommend him more highly to you all. And if you have any questions about his candidacy, I'm more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for this witness? Just thank you. Thank you very much. Now I'll call your second witness in favor of your nomination, Justice Zachary Hillman. Wonderful to see you again.
Nice. Just here?
Yes.
The old State House.
Nice. It's nice to see the council. Good morning.
Morning.
Would like to thank the council for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Attorney Spring. As a district court judge sitting in the Lowell District Court for close to 2 years, I had the privilege of interacting almost daily with Attorney Spring. During that time, I presided over cases in which he argued bail, opposed detention, litigated motions, tried bench and jury trials, and defended persons facing involuntary commitment under Section 35. Attorney Spring is a gifted lawyer, and I'm going to echo much of what Judge Rooney already said, and which I would wager you've heard with all the phone calls that you've already gotten. Whether he is in front of a judge or a jury, he is at home in the courtroom. He has a deep and thorough understanding of the law, court procedure, and the rules of evidence. When making an oral argument or setting out a position in an always well-done legal memorandum, he communicates clearly and concisely. He's one of the most consistently well-prepared lawyers that appears in court. It was plain to me that he puts significant work and thought into every case that he handles. It's not just these technical skills, however, that make him so good at what he does. He is professional, courteous, and respectful not only to the court, but everybody he encounters: clients, clerks, court officers, probation, opposing counsel, and opposing witnesses. He is a model of calm and even temperament, even on some of the most hectic days in court. Although I understand that may not be the situation when it comes to the Celtics. He is collegial. I have seen him lean over to a colleague and whisper a recommendation for an argument to make or a case to cite. And I have seen him take the time to play the role of mentor to some of the newer attorneys as they appear in court. Perhaps most importantly, having worked in the courts almost daily throughout the course of his career, he understands the human toll that the process can take on the parties to a case, victims of crime, and the community. I often saw him as a reassuring presence for a nervous client, sitting in the gallery with distraught members of a client, family members of a client, and speaking with the family of a client who had just been involuntarily committed to reassure them as to what the next steps were going to be. Superior Court judges have a tremendously difficult job. They handle a heavy, diverse load of complex cases with significant consequences for those involved. I have the utmost confidence that Attorney Spring's skill, temperament, and demeanor will not only allow him to embrace that challenge, but to excel as a Superior Court judge. He's going to thrive in the intellectual rigor of the work. The hard work that comes with managing a law practice and a heavy caseload as an attorney has prepared him to be faced with the significant workload of a Superior Court judge. Given his extensive experience as a trial attorney, he's going to be able to hit the ground running when it comes to trying cases. And his well-rounded practice is going to give him perspective on when to be firm, when to be flexible, and on the value of being receptive. I have no doubt in my mind that Attorney Spring will treat every party that comes before him with dignity and respect, and will approach each case with an open mind, give it thorough and thoughtful review, and make a prompt, fair decision. He is going to be an excellent addition to the Superior Court. Thank you to the council for its time and allowing me to speak on behalf of Attorney Spring, and I would welcome any questions if anybody has any.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you for your testimony, Judge. I've said hello and I probably not get in trouble again.
Certainly will. Thank you, Council.
So much. Are there any witnesses who want to speak in opposition to the nomination? Of course not. Listen, I take full credit for advocating for you, but it was so easy with all the really extraordinary folks who were calling and recommending you. So now we would like to hear from you.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Councillor Dolan, and thank you to all members of the council. I am deeply grateful to the governor and the lieutenant governor for the faith they've placed in me. I am so thankful to the members of the governor's staff, including Jesse Boudou, Dara Kesselheim, Sonia Altamirano and her team, and Kimberly Baptiste for their support and guidance throughout this application process. I'd like to thank the members of the Judicial Nominating Commission for their careful review of my application. I'd like to thank my witnesses, Justice Zach Hillman and Judge Lynn Rooney. And finally, I'd like to thank the Chief Justice of the Superior Court, Judge Michael Raschuti, for being here and being so supportive of my nomination. I'm sitting here today as a result of a combination of hard work and incredibly good luck. And that good luck began on April 21st, 1976, when I had the privilege of being born to Peter and Susan Spring. My parents met at a music camp while they were in high school, and they began to date. They went their separate ways for college, my mom to the University of New Hampshire and my dad to West Point. But after graduating, they married in the summer of 1973. They moved to Monterey, California, where my dad began his military service at Fort Ord. I was born 3 years later, and my sister was born 18 months after that, completing our family. When my father's military commitment ended, my parents moved us to Billerica, where my sister and I were raised. And I had just a spectacular childhood, largely as a result of my parents. For every significant event in my childhood, whether it be a cross-country race, a band concert, a tennis match, or an academic ceremony, at least one, but usually both of my parents were in attendance. I never worried whether I'd be able to go to college because from the time I was a little kid, my parents assured me they would not only support me going to whatever college I chose, but they would pick up the tab. When I decided to apply to law school, I was a little nervous about telling my parents. There were no attorneys in my family, and in fact, I had never even met an attorney until I went to college. But as always, my parents were completely supportive and encouraged me to follow my dreams. I would not be here today if I had not been raised in the supportive, loving Spring household, and I hope you know, Mom and Dad, that this great honor of being nominated to a judgeship belongs just as much to you as it does to me. I often tell people I hit the lottery on March 17th, 2007, when I somehow convinced the best person I've ever met to become my wife. I got to know Meg Struff when we were both relatively new prosecutors in the Middlesex District Attorney's Office. Within 10 minutes of meeting her, I knew Meg was unlike anyone I had ever known. I was blown away by her brilliance, her compassion, and her sense of humor. Meg has been my biggest champion and the most fun life partner imaginable, and I would not be sitting here today without her love, encouragement, and unwavering belief in me. After marrying Meg, I hit the lottery one more time when our daughter Lizzie came into the world. I was a little apprehensive about becoming a father. I had never really had much exposure to babies and young children, and I was wondering how I was going to manage to keep this tiny human alive. Little did I know that I was about to have a front row seat to watch Lizzie turn into the superstar she has become today, and it has been the most exciting thing I've ever witnessed. Lizzie is participating in a summer program and could not join us today in person, although she may be lingering on the Zoom link somewhere. She'll be attending Boston College in the fall, and Meg and I cannot wait to see all that she will accomplish. I didn't realize it at the time, but the trajectory of my life changed in the summer of 1994. It was the summer after my high school graduation, and I was grinding out my shifts at Papagino's in the Billerica Mall until it was time to leave for college in August. But what I was really thinking about that summer was the O.J. Simpson murder case, which had been dubbed the trial of the century. As the trial began during my freshman year of college, I became captivated by the court proceedings. I was fascinated by the attorney's advocacy, the judge's rulings, and the strategic decisions that shaped the litigation. After class, I would race back to my dorm to watch the trial on television. By the time the verdict was returned during my sophomore year, I experienced something I had never felt before. I knew exactly what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to spend my career in a courtroom. What attracted me most was the aspiration at the heart of our judicial system that every person is entitled to equal justice under the law, that every litigant deserves to be heard, and that every criminal defendant is entitled to a fair trial before an impartial jury of his or her peers. I attended law school and started my career as a 25-year-old prosecutor in 2001. I also worked as a civil defense attorney and for the past 20 years as a criminal defense attorney. It has been a career that has been more fulfilling than my wildest dreams. I have worked to ensure that all of my clients benefit from a system we all envision, a system where everybody is treated equally and fairly. I recognize that we do not always live up to those ideals. Research has shown that criminal defendants of color are often treated more harshly in Massachusetts courtrooms than white defendants. Defendants with resources to hire private counsel frequently achieve better outcomes than those who rely on court-appointed attorneys. If I am fortunate enough to be confirmed, I will come to the bench every day committed to doing my part to make sure that the guiding principle of our judicial system, that every person is entitled to equal justice under the law, is not simply an aspiration, but a reality in my courtroom. I am humbled by this nomination, and I would be honored to serve the people of the Commonwealth as a trial judge. Thank you for the time and care you have devoted to reviewing my application. I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. And we will begin with questions from Counselor Terry Kennedy.
You know, I remember that story about your mother-in-law when your wife was before us. And, you know, it really showed that how kind and compassionate you were. And the only problem with that is people that are that nice and kind and compassionate make Shooty and I look bad. No, I remember that. And I also remember meeting your mother-in-law when we did the swearing in out in Fitchburg. I sat next to her and had a nice conversation with her. She kind of snapped to for that. And she was very, very proud. I remember that very well. I've obviously known you forever. You and your wife, I met when you were both young prosecutors beating me up. I think we getting that guap up now, right? But yeah, you know, I've known you forever. There's nothing to talk about. I'm going to be voting for you next week. You're going to be fantastic. You're going to be a great addition.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Well said.
Thank you so much, Counselor. Counselor Jacobs.
So my voice is a little weird today, so I'm not gonna. I just want to say, thank you for coming out. I really enjoyed meeting you and the conversation we had. Clearly, you come highly, highly recommended by a very long list of people who've seen you at work. You know what? I had questions, but I'm gonna let it go just because I'm struggling today. But
All good. It's all good. Thank you, Counselor Jacobs.
Thank you very much.
Counselor Tamisha Civil.
Thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Springer.
Thank you so much.
It's okay if you take half the time she did.
Thank you for taking the time to speak to me, and you're very well qualified. My only question for you is, having experience being a prosecutor as well as a defense attorney, what do you think you can bring to the bench? Having these two experiences and bring balance to the court system.
Thank you for the question, and I enjoyed our conversation yesterday. As we talked about, it's been an interesting evolution that I've seen over the last 25 years in the criminal justice system. When I first started as a prosecutor, really the only two questions that we asked were, can the government prove the case? And if so, what is the punishment going to be? And over the past 25 years, I think there's been an evolution, particularly in sentencing, where trial judges now are encouraged to think about, instead of just punishing this person who's in front of me who has pled guilty to a crime or who has been convicted, What services can we offer them so that maybe they won't be back in the criminal justice system again? And as I've told many people over the years who've asked me, how do you do this work? How do you represent these people who are charged with crimes? I tell them that a tiny, tiny percentage of the people I've represented during the course of my career are just inherently evil. For the most part, most of my clients have underlying issues, whether it be trauma from their childhood or substance abuse addiction or mental health challenges or poverty or housing insecurity that lead them to make decisions that land them in criminal court. And so I think that it's incumbent upon all of us who work in the system, and certainly if I am confirmed, I will think every day as a judge, about the sorts of dispositions I can impose such that we can provide services to people whereby if they have to serve a period of time when they get out and they're on probation, what can we offer to them so that they can hopefully address the issues that they have and not end up back in the criminal system. And so that's something that I have thought a lot about over the years. I think it's been a really important evolution that I've seen over the course of my career, and I will endeavor to do that on a daily basis.
Thank you so much, and your counselor is very in support of your nomination, and I'm looking forward to supporting you as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, this is hilarious. I told you that I was gonna be the last counselor to question you, that we weren't gonna have any time, and so, but here we are, which is great.
Let's chat.
Let's chat. Well, I do want to share, I want you to share with the folks here what we talked about, because I think it speaks volumes and about, everything that everyone has said about you and how you do go the extra mile and you are extraordinarily passionate and helpful. What did you tell me about how you first met clients when you were first practicing law?
So my wife and I met in the DA's office, and back then it was difficult to make a living in the DA's office. And so I left and I was a civil defense attorney for a period of time. And then I just missed the courtroom so much. I missed being in court every day that I decided to open up my own criminal defense practice and see if I could make it. And so Meg and I talked and ran the numbers and realized, boy, there's not a heck of a lot of money we have to start this practice. And so I said, for the beginning of my practice, I'm not going to have a traditional office. And if I have clients who want to meet, which is most of them, I'll just go and meet with them in their homes, and we'll have conversations, at their kitchen table. And I was stunned when I first started doing that at how many of my clients said, I've had lawyers in the past where I've had to go see them in their offices, and that's sort of an intimidating thing to have to do, to go to an attorney's office and, sit in the waiting room and wait to talk to the attorney. And so I said to Meg, I think that we stumbled upon a really good business model where I'm just going to go and visit with people in their homes. And so that's what I did for the next 20 years. And I've visited with hundreds of clients in their homes, sitting on their couch, sitting at their kitchen table. And it's been valuable for them, I think, because it makes them more comfortable. But it's also been valuable for me to sort of be able to see what the family dynamic is, to talk to their parents or their spouses or their children, who oftentimes will give me information that maybe my client wouldn't give me, that will allow me to craft some sort of argument to the judge about why a certain disposition might be appropriate. And so it's been sort of an unconventional path, having never had that sort of typical office space, but it's worked really well. And I think that my clients have benefited from that as well.
No question, and that really is extraordinary. So I just want to we have so much time. I just want to ask you one question. We had talked about probation violations and substance use disorder and alcohol use disorder being a disability in your view of technical violations for people who are on probation. Can you just talk about that?
So I think that everyone who has a substance abuse disorder and who is trying to get clean relapse is a part of recovery. And so I have seen hundreds of times in my career and just sitting in court, people who are on probation and they're brought back into the courtroom because the probation department says they tested dirty on a screen and now we want you, the judge, to violate this person. And so as we talked about, I find it hard to imagine that I would ever send somebody to jail simply for testing dirty on a drug screen. Because again, I think that addiction is a medical issue. And I think that we need to show compassion and patience when we're trying to help these people work through their issues. And so if I am confirmed, if I'm on the bench and somebody comes before me on a probation violation and the violation is simply a dirty screen, we'll have a conversation about, are there additional services that we can offer to you that will make your recovery easier? Do you need to talk to probation once a week, maybe? Do you need to have more screens to keep you accountable? What can we do to help you kick this habit once and for all? And I think that, you know, the theory that some people have that if you violate your probation in any way, then you're going to get whacked on sentencing and you're going to end up in jail. I don't think that's a smart way to deal with probationers who are dealing with substance abuse addiction, because if we send those people to jail, where frankly, they probably have access to substances in jail and then they get out, they're not going to have the support system that's going to allow them to meaningfully address the issues that they're facing. And so that's how I view probation violations when it comes to dirty screens.
Thank you. That's an excellent, superb answer. And I do take credit for pushing you, but I also want to give Councilor Kennedy credit because he's been a huge supporter of yours as well.
I appreciate that for all these years.
There being nothing further, this hearing is adjourned.
Thank you.
One other question, did you pay your electric bill?
Just last year.
So much. I was just looking.
I'm not gonna say a word. I'm gonna stay out of this time.
yourself comfortable.
Just got no lens turned on.
Just giving Erin a second to get the tech on working. All right, well, good morning, everyone. I'm going to start the hearing on behalf of Attorney McCormack with a congratulations on your nomination and reading into the record your letter from the governor on July 15th, 2026 to the Executive Council. Dear councilors, I am pleased to nominate Lisa M. McCormack to the position of Associate Justice of the Probate and Family Court. I submit this nomination for the advice and consent of the Executive Council pursuant to Part 2, Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and am enclosing the nominee's resume for your convenience. Sincerely, Maura T. Healy. So congratulations on that. We're gonna shift into introducing who came with you today. Brought a bunch of people, and you'll get a chance to do that, and then we'll hear from your witnesses and give you a chance for a personal statement. But I just wanted to share with the rest of council that we held a local hearing on your behalf, and the outpouring of support was huge and so consistent in how they described you as someone that they enthusiastically endorse, or so sad to be losing from your role in the court. We said again and again, but so pleased and happy to see you nominated and hopefully confirmed. And I just wanted to reflect that into this proceeding before we get started. But yes, please share with us who you brought.
Okay, this will take a while, so. I've got my mom, Jenny, my daughter, Rebecca. I've got a colleague and former partner at Keen Hibbert, Diane DiGiacomo, my dad, Wayne. Trisha Farley Bouvier. We've got Judge Simon, Richard Simons, one of my witnesses. And Jennifer Carpenter, a colleague and friend, and my husband, Kevin Sullivan. And then there's Jesse Voodoo and Kesselheim, who really helped me navigate this process.
Well, wonderful. So now we're going to call up your first witness this morning, Diane DiGiacomo. If you could join us, make yourself, you can sit, you can stand, whatever's most comfortable for you.
Good morning, members of the Governor's Council. My name is Diane DiGiacomo, and I'm honored to have been asked to speak in support of the Governor's judicial nomination of Lisa McCormack to the Probate and Family Court. I have known Lisa both professionally and personally for the last 25 years, and I believe she's got the work experience, work ethic, service to the community, and temperament to make an excellent probate court judge. First, I want to describe her work experience. I worked with Lisa at Kane Hibbert and Myers in Pittsfield and Great Barrington from 2001 until 2015, when she left to become the judicial case manager at the Berkshire Probate and Family Court. I was a partner in the firm, and for much of the 14 years that Lisa was there, I was also the chair of the litigation department. A majority of my practice during that time and since then has been in family law, and I've tried cases and appeared many times in the probate and family court. Lisa supported the entire litigation department of the firm and moved seamlessly through different areas of the law. She did business litigation, she did real estate litigation, she worked very closely with me on family law matters. She worked on medical malpractice defense cases. She worked on employment litigation and counseling and other general litigation matters. Lisa was always a quick learner, and she had a really strong work ethic. Her conclusions were reliable, and you could always trust her judgment. She is an excellent writer and was a zealous advocate for her client. She's very comfortable in court and always prepared. Throughout her time at Kane Hibbert, Lisa supported the largest healthcare system in Berkshire County doing guardianships and conservatorships, and trying commitment hearings. These matters all required communicating effectively with witnesses, physicians, and families who were often in crisis. And they were very tight time deadlines, which she met. I can tell you that the client relied on her, as did we, as her colleagues. She was able to navigate her way through thorny legal issues while never losing her compassion or her composure. And in the area of guardianships and conservatorships and commitment hearings, she really became an expert, not only in Berkshire County, but really throughout Massachusetts. Second, I want to talk about Lisa's involvement in the community. She is very committed to community and committed to her family. While at Kane Hibbert, she sat on different boards, nonprofit boards, including Goodwill and Girls Inc. She and I raised our daughters together, right, Becky? In the town of Lenox, and they were not only classmates, but they played softball and volleyball together. And Lisa coached. She worked the pancake breakfast to raise money. She served as the treasurer of the Booster Club, and she practiced law full-time and rarely missed a game. As an athlete herself, I can vouch for her enthusiasm for sports did not limit itself to her children. And she took it upon herself to form a Kane Hibbert softball and volleyball team to compete with other company teams in Berkshire County. As a testament to her skill of persuasion and drive towards inclusiveness, she managed to recruit me at age 52 to take up softball as a new sport. My hobby was cut short, however, due to an aggressive slide into first base where I promptly tore my right hip labral, and that benched me for the rest of the season.
You safe?
I made it. I was. Finally, Lisa has the perfect temperament to be a judge, and especially in the probate and family court where cases can become emotional, complex, and challenging. I have personally observed her temperament as a parent, as a coach, as a colleague, working collaboratively with other professional colleagues and representing clients in the practice of law. And her temperament is consistent throughout. She is smart and confident. She is no nonsense and no drama, but she is also compassionate, respectful, and always holding true to her values. And these values come from hard work, empathy, and integrity. They come from her supportive family, who are here today, and they come from being part of a close-knit community. I believe that the litigants who appear before her, while perhaps in the most tumultuous periods of their lives, would feel that they've been treated respectfully by a judge who is thoughtful, fair, and open-minded. And for all of these reasons, I encourage this council to confirm the governor's nomination of Lisa McCormack to the Probate and Family Court. And I welcome any questions you may have.
Anyone have any questions? Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
All right, next, I'd like to ask Judge Simons to join us. Recently retired probate and family court justice.
Thank you, Counselor Jacobs. Distinguished members of the Governor's Council. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to offer testimony on behalf of Attorney Lisa McCormack. My name is Richard Simons, and on August 27th of this year, will retire after serving nearly 18 and a half years as a justice on the Probate and Family Court. I've served in the capacity as First Justice of the Berkshire Division since June of 2010. It is a privilege to tell you about Lisa McCormack. I first encountered Lisa as she appeared with some regularity in my courtroom. As Diane Giacomo just explained, her law firm represented the largest medical provider in Berkshire County, and Lisa was the attorney who handled the hospital's guardianship work. These guardianship cases involved life-death situations laced with complicated medical issues and some tense family scenarios. Attorney McCormack always presented these cases clearly, compassionately, and smoothly. Expert witnesses were always well prepared. Her written work was clear, concise, and well documented. I always felt a level of comfort with cases in which Attorney McCormack was involved. In late 2014, I learned that my judicial case manager was going to transfer to the Hampshire division to be closer to her home. And I was concerned about finding the right replacement for her. Around that time, I saw Lisa at a local bar event and told her there was going to be an opening and encouraged her to apply. To my great satisfaction, she did. She impressed our interview panel of 3 and was unanimously selected in 2015 to become our judicial case manager. The judicial case manager works very closely with the first justice. As such, I have a very good vantage point in which to comment on her unique strengths and to share with you why I believe she would be a wonderful judge. Firstly, Attorney McCormack is well-versed in both probate and family law. As the senior lawyer in the judicial department of the division, the JCM screens, triages, and ultimately advises the judge on the legal issues at play in cases that are a bit out of the ordinary. Therefore, the JCM encounters the variety of legal issues that come before our court and is often required to analyze the issues for the judge. Her scholarship provides a strong foundation for hearing and deciding the most challenging cases that land on a probate and family court judge's docket. Secondly, Attorney McCormack is a skilled writer. She has the ability to synthesize a mass of information and produce a writing that is clear, concise, and logical. I've collaborated with her on judicial findings and have the utmost confidence in her work product. Third, Attorney McCormack is even-tempered. On any given day, as JCM, she can be pulled in 1,000 different directions. She may be fielding calls from attorneys, dealing with a challenging self-represented litigant at the counter, triaging a personnel matter, reviewing her own work, and being available to the judge. Throughout all of that, she remains calm. She deals with each matter expeditiously and never, ever appears to be flustered. In a courtroom where the unexpected is sure to occur, her calm nature will be truly an asset. Fourth, Attorney McCormack is a humble woman who takes matters seriously, but does not take herself seriously. Whether she's dealing with a litigant at the counter who is battling mental illness or a well-respected attorney, she acts the same, providing each person with the respect and dignity she deserves. She has expanded her work as a judicial case manager by taking on tasks like helping conciliate thorny cases. And I'll share with you, I recently had a very contentious guardianship where 2 siblings were fighting over decisions for their mother. And there was litigation pending in 2 different states and in federal jurisdiction, and it is before me on a contested hearing. I had discussed the case extensively with Lisa before, and we had decided that I was going to refer, before I started the hearing, refer the case to talk to Attorney McCormack. There were various sets of lawyers as well as the parties, and Lisa skillfully resolved that case. So much so that these 2 sisters who hadn't talked in a long time after the meeting with Lisa, one sister said to the other, maybe we should go have lunch. And the other sister said, I've missed you. And then they approached Lisa and they said, do you think you can help us resolve our federal court litigation? I share that because it reflected who Lisa is. Knowledgeable about the laws. You said no nonsense, direct, helpful, and always keeping her eye on the ball. Scholarship, the ability to manage many things going on at the same time, her legal acumen, her even temperament and humility are the traits we want to see in our judges. Attorney McCormack possesses these traits and would serve the citizens as a compassionate, caring, and knowledgeable judge. I urge you to confirm her without delay, and I appreciate the opportunity to share these thoughts. And of course, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you so much, Judge. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you so much.
Good luck in your retirement. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to call up our state representative, Trisha Farley-Bouvier, who I would also like to acknowledge shared her words at the local district hearing as well, but I'm so pleased to have you join us this morning.
Thank you so much, Counselor Jacobs, and to all the members of the Governor's Council. I appreciate you having me here today. And I want to start off by saying that I wholeheartedly support Attorney Lisa McCormack's nomination to the position of Associate Justice of the Probate and Family Court. Her experience, as you have heard, as Judicial Case Manager has put her in the position more prepared than most to take on this position. Before I get into all the great things about Attorney McCormack, I'm going to take a moment to talk about something very important to the people of the Berkshires. And maybe you haven't heard this before. So, please hear me now. It is incredibly important that Berkshire judges sit on Berkshire benches. Now, why do you think that's important? Isn't it supposed to be important that you know the law and you know how to just do the job? That's not really justice, is it? I need a judge to know the difference between the Morningside and the West Side. That might seem a little silly to you, but if you don't know the intricacies of what it's like to live in the Berkshires, then you won't understand how our transportation problems mean that you do not have equal access to justice. And that's pretty much one of your most important jobs here, is to make sure that the people, all the people in the Commonwealth in every county, have equal access to justice. I need judges on Berkshire benches to understand that there is real differences in the culture of North Berkshire and South Berkshire. Now, to someone living in Suffolk County, that doesn't mean anything to you. The Berkshires are just a place with pretty trees and music, right? But that's not who the judges see in their courtroom, right? Yo-Yo Ma does not end up in a courtroom likely in Berkshire County, right? It's the people living and trying to make a life in the Berkshires. And Counselor Jacobs has done an outstanding job working with the members of the Western Mass delegation and Chief Legal Counsel and his team to really address this issue. What is going on? And I'm truly asking you all to ask this question. What is going on in Western Massachusetts? What's going on structurally that we have a problem getting Western Mass people on their benches in their own counties? Okay, now I promise I'm going to turn back to Attorney Nicola. You should all know that the fact that Judge Richard Simons and Attorney Jimico, I do that. I'm so to Giacomo, that they came here to testify says an enormous amount. These are two of the most respected legal minds in Berkshire County. And it means a lot that they are here. It says a lot about Attorney McCormack. At the local hearing last week, again, I thank Counselor Jacobs for doing that. I kept hearing these words over and over again: integrity, steady, trusted, kind, fair. And I think that all reflects what my experience has been. And that is, we too raised daughters together, Rebecca's little sister. And my sense of Lisa was just this person who was calm and steady and has the temperament to do this. And by the way, we didn't play, our kids didn't play volleyball and softball. No, we were a cross-country ski parents. And so we stood out in the cold for lots and lots of hours together. Anyway, with that, I want to, with my strongest recommendation, ask you to confirm Attorney Lisa McCormack for the position of Associate Justice of the Berkshire Probate and Family Court. I know that you will be very proud and pleased with her work. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us and thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions before? No, thank you so much. We're really so happy to have you have joined us this morning. Is there anyone here in opposition to this nominee? All right, well, hearing none, I'd like to turn it over to you to share with us your personal statement.
Thank you, Counselor Jacobs. Good morning. I just want to start by thanking the Governor's Council members for taking the time to meet with me and to talk with me before today's hearing, and for the work that you do in vetting nominees for these important appointments. I recognize your commitment and thank you for your service. I also want to thank Governor Healy and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll and their staff, especially Dora Kesselheim and Jesse Boodoo, for all the help they provided in shepherding me through this process. And I also want to thank Sonia Altamirano and her team for their support. Thank you to my witnesses, Judge Richard Simons, Diane DiGiacomo, and Tricia Farley Bouvier, for your kind words and for being here today to support me. I want to thank my family and friends and colleagues who have come out to support me today, and those who came out to our local district hearing, and for all those people who submitted letters of support. The outpouring of support has been beyond anything I could have imagined. I truly feel blessed and grateful. Two people I want to especially thank: my husband Kevin and Judge Simons. You were the only people I spoke to before deciding to submit my application, and you were both emphatic in your encouragement, so thank you for believing in me. I'm going to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about my personal history. I'm a third-generation Berkshire County native, so my roots run deep in Western Mass. I attended high school, college, and law school, all in Western Mass. And while I have lived and worked in other places, for the past 25 years, I've lived in Berkshire County. I come from a working class family with, one, a strong work ethic. My almost 80-year-old father is here today, still climbing up on roofs, laying shingles, and cleaning out gutters. Two, an even stronger sense of family values. My mother, who's also here, has dedicated her life to raising 4 children, helping to raise 7 grandchildren, and now 2 great-grandchildren. And 3, instilling a sense of service to community. My 2 grandfathers served in World War II. My father voluntarily enlisted during Vietnam. My grandmother served as a nurse for many years, and my mother, who has been a lifelong communicant of St. Anne's Church, still serves as a Eucharistic minister. I had a pretty traditional childhood. My mother was a stay-at-home mom while my father worked as a builder. In fact, he and I designed and he built the house that I currently live in. I grew up in a modest 3-bedroom ranch house that my father also built. My parents always provided for everything we needed, but if there was something extra that we wanted, we were on our own. Lenox is a relatively affluent town, and many of my friends had an allowance. I remember asking my parents if I could have an allowance, and was shocked when they said no. So I started working at age 12. I started with a paper route. I babysat, I cleaned houses, I worked for a local restaurant, I worked as a clerk in a pharmacy, and I worked as a bank teller, and that was all before I went to college. Neither of my parents went to college, but they recognized in me a love for learning and fostered and encouraged me to obtain a higher education. While in college, I was in the work study program. I worked in the kitchen, I worked as a campus tour guide for prospective students, and as a teaching aide in a daycare center. I also did fun things too, like playing tennis and softball, and I even tried out for musical theater, not my thing. I loved my time at Smith. I lived with and socialized with and took classes with such a diverse group of women from all over the country and all over the world. People with diverse religious, ethnic, cultural, and socioeconomic backgrounds, and learned so much from that experience. After college, I went into commercial banking for a couple of years, but when my oldest daughter was born in 1992, I decided to pivot and went to law school at night while being a full-time mother during the day. While in law school, I had my second child mid-semester, took a week off, and was back at it. During that time, I had the opportunity to intern for a federal district court judge, Dominic Squatrito. It was an amazing experience. My first assignment was writing a decision on an NLRB case. After completing my assignment, the judge called me into his lobby and said, "I signed your decision without any edits, and it will probably be published because it was an issue of first impression in this district." He then stunned me even further by asking if I would clerk with him in the courtroom that day since his clerk was unavailable. Of course, I said yes, even though I had no idea what that entailed. The law clerk for the other judge said, "You're here to do research for the judge in real time and help him with whatever questions he has." When the judge took the bench and was hearing his first case, it was a drug trafficking case. He reached over and handed me a note. I was sweating, my heart was racing. The note said, "How do you think the attorneys are doing?" The second note that he handed me said, "See that child sitting in the back of the courtroom? He will be an adult the next time he sees his father. Dash, mandatory minimum sentences." After that, I relaxed because I realized I wasn't there to help him. I was there because he was providing me with this incredible opportunity to help me learn what it was like to try a case, what approaches were effective, how a courtroom operated, and how his decisions deeply impacted families. I'm not saying that experience is what made me want to be a judge. I had no such grand scheme, but it did make me want to go into litigation. Being in court is a scary place for litigants. They need effective attorneys to guide them through, to protect their rights and advocate on their behalf. That was something I could do. These weren't just cases, they were people and families going through difficult times. Keeping the humanness of each case in front and center is of utmost importance. I also learned that you should never lose sight of the fact that people are going to look up to you, and you have an ability and an opportunity to help shape and teach the next generation. I have devoted the last 11 years of my career to the probate and family court. I'm passionate about the work I do in this court because I'm helping people and families every day when they're at their most vulnerable. I can ease their anxiety by providing them with information about court processes, reassure them that they will have a chance to present their case and be given a fair and impartial hearing. If confirmed, the tenets that have guided me in my personal life and my professional career, i.e. my strong sense of family values, commitment to serving my community, strong work ethic, compassion, empathy, and humility, will carry over to the work I would do on the bench. I'm not going to change. It's who I am to the core. Thank you for your time, and I'll answer any questions anyone has.
Thank you very much. So normally our practice is to go around to counselors around the table, but one of our counselors is recovering at home right now and on Zoom. So we're going to actually start with her. So assuming the technology is cooperating with us, Eunice, are you there?
I'm here.
All right, so Counselor Ziegler will kick us off.
Thank you so much. Congratulations on your nomination.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. I know we weren't able to meet in person given my my health status currently, but I did enjoy our conversation, just talking about your experience and talking about what you would bring to the bench. So I have a couple questions for you, just kind of picking up on where we left off in a more public forum. And so there's no doubt that you have a deep breadth of experience with the probate and family court, within the community, Can you talk about, and we talked about this, and I wanted you to share your answer publicly, what the transition would be like for you to go behind the bench and what you see the role of a judge to be.
Yes, we did talk about that. Thank you for that question. You know, I work so closely with the judges as a judicial case manager. Both Judge Simons and their other associate justice and all of the judges who have come through the court in the past 11 years. And part of that work entails collaborating on cases, as Judge Simon says. It also entails helping write decisions. It also entails reviewing decisions. It also entails clerking. Sometimes I'm sitting right there on the bench clerking a case. So I feel very well prepared to be able to make this transition. That's not to say there won't be a learning curve. And I'll, need to learn how to manage a courtroom and that type of stuff. But I think that substantively, I have handled pretty much every type of case that comes before the probate and family court in my role as a judicial case manager. And I'm hopeful to be able to rely and fall back on that experience when and if I transition into a judicial position. I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question? I forgot.
And what you perceive the role of a judge to be.
Yeah, so I perceive the role of a judge, you are held in a position of respect. You are somebody that should always keep first and foremost in your mind that people are looking up to you, and that you need to convey a sense of not only knowledge, but dignity, respect for the position. And I think that I have, again, got to see a lot of judges and how they operate and how they manage, conduct themselves both in a courtroom and out of a courtroom. And I would be remiss not to emulate Judge Simons.
So we talked about also, the type of cases that you were involved with. Can you speak to, and we talked about complexities in all cases, can you speak to the most complex case that you've been involved with relative to the probate court primarily? What did it teach you, and what would you, from that experience, bring to the bench?
So when we talked, I went over a few cases, but I'll just start with, in the interest of time, just a legally complex case that we dealt with. Because obviously the cases that come in front of probate and family court are emotionally complex. There's a lot of different types of complexities, but a legally complex case that I worked on involved a case where it was an estate case, and a family was contesting a will. There were issues of constructive trust, breach of fiduciary duty, undue influence, and the whole time it was a 3-day trial that I helped Judge Decision write the decision on. And the whole time you have to keep in mind that this is a family that is going through a very painful time of their life. I mean, there are sisters and brothers fighting against each, and there were 2 camps. So, there was, they had picked sides and were fighting against each other. And so you have to be sensitive to the fact that all of these people are going through a very painful time in their lives, but it's your job to take a step back and to apply the law and the different standards based upon what the claims were that are being put in front of you. So that was probably the most complex case that I worked on legally.
Thank you. My last question is, you spoke about about the resources that were available in the court and just the general functioning. You're well versed in it. What are some of the resources that you feel are underutilized within the court, and how would you seek to elevate them from the bench?
Yeah, so which was, that's usually, the reverse question is usually asked, so I appreciate that question. You're asking what resources are underutilized, and I would say that I think probably the biggest resource that is underutilized is the Frisk Court, which is the Family Resolution Specialty Court. It's a type of court that it's a subspecialty of the probate and family court, but it approaches cases with a much different mindset. So it's more family centric. It's more collaborative. It's a way of resolving cases by getting all of the players to the table, getting resources to the table to help the players be able to make the decisions. And then the parents themselves are the ones that are actually guided towards making a decision, as opposed to a judge telling them what to do. The judge sits with them on their case, and they're not even called hearings, they're called conferences. So it's a much different approach to resolving litigation. It is, I know it's up and running in Northampton. We in Berkshire have referred a few cases to that, but I think that that is a resource that is underutilized, and that model could be developed in other courts effectively, because they've done a very good job of setting that court up in the Northampton area.
Thank you so much. And again, your experience speaks for itself. And I'm just grateful for your nomination, for your time to answer my questions, and congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor Ziegler. Get better soon. Next, I'd like to turn it to Counselor Civil for questions.
Congratulations on your nominations. It's a pleasure having a conversation about your experience and what you bring to the table if you're appointed as the Associate Justice of the Family Probate Court. We talked about mental health, and we talked about even your experience throughout your career. What do you think we can do better in order to provide resources and access to individuals who come into your court to seek the help that they need?
Yeah, mental health is a very big challenge. And presents itself in the probate and family court in many ways. I think that funding would be a benefit in that area. We, at one point in time, we had a court connected counselor that was actually in our courthouse like a day or two a week, and available in real time to have referrals and to help people that were maybe in crisis or needed immediate referrals. That funding for that program went away, and we haven't had that in a few years. But it was a very helpful thing to have. And just having mental health resources in the community available, and having, the probation staff be very connected with them and knowing how to give out those referrals is going to be helpful.
Thank you. And what is your greatest strength that you have noticed throughout your career that you can bring to the criminal justice system?
Well, my greatest strength is probably my ability to stay calm under pressure, right? So worked in very, very, very high pressure situations, and I'm usually able to maintain calm and to be able to think outside the box. So it's not just thinking about the immediate problem that's right in front of you, but be able to look at a problem and look at the whole picture. And I think that especially in the context of family law, that's really necessary, because oftentimes what's being presented in front of you isn't the issue. It's something else. And so being able to know that and explore that and to think outside of the box and how to resolve that.
Thank you so much. No further questions.
Thank you, Counselor Dolan.
Thank you so much. Really good to see you. Really appreciated our discussion, and we really covered a lot of ground. We really did. It was quite remarkable. And I told you at the beginning I was going to start with a law
School exam.
Very kind. You passed with flying colors. I want to focus on pro se parties because there are so many people in our probate and family courts can't afford to hire an attorney. And so they go in and they represent themselves. So there are a few issues with pro se parties that I wanted to talk about with you. And the first is, and we talked about it, abusive litigation. These are instances where, you know, they're not seeking, it's not a legitimate request for relief. It's an excuse to have contact with someone they can't have contact with any other way. It's an attempt to exercise control. And one of the things that's happening, thanks to AI, is that pro se parties are able to file sometimes extremely lengthy motions in support of their, basically as part of their abusive litigation. Sometimes they cite cases that don't exist or they improperly cite them. So can you just speak to that? Because I see it as a growing problem.
I see it as a growing problem as well. And I also think that at some point, we're not there yet, the trial court is going to have to embrace the ability to, for us to use AI in defense of that and to be able to detect that. Right now, the message from the trial court is that we're not permitted to use AI. So we have to just use our own knowledge and our own experience.
That is extremely time consuming.
It is. It's very, very time consuming. And I think it's just, I think that's an initial reaction from the trial court is that we don't really know what this is all about. So right now, our policy is that we're not able to use it, but I think that's going to have to change in the future because AI is not going away. And those types of things are going to be happening all the time. They're going to be, citing cases that are completely irrelevant because they're from another jurisdiction where we don't even have that statute, or that's not our case law and our
misrepresent them.
Completely misrepresent what the case even says, right? Exactly. And that is very time consuming. So I don't know what the answer is. I just know that it's an issue that is going to need to be addressed soon.
One of the possible answers is sanctions, because pro se parties are held to the same standard that attorneys are held to. So we would certainly sanction an attorney who submitted a 40-page brief with 35 falsely cited cases.
You're right. You're right. That absolutely could be a remedy. Another remedy is if it's abusive litigation, the repetitive filings could be to have a gatekeeper order in place.
The next question, yes.
That's another tool that a judge would have to be able to not prevent against it, but to guard against it.
Well, what's our criteria be for imposing a gatekeeper order? At what point?
Yeah, I mean,
across the line.
That's right. So you have always have to be mindful of the fact that we have to allow people access to justice. And so whether they're bringing a claim that they've already tried to do before and were unsuccessful in bringing, if they are repeatedly filing contempts, we've got cases, sometimes they've got 8 contempts open. And, one tool is to consolidate so that there's only one hearing, consolidate for hearing purposes, so that there's only one hearing and it cuts down on the number of times people have to defend against it. But it is certainly something to be mindful of. It's certainly something that we've seen in our court. And being the judicial case manager, I'm actually one of the people that has to monitor those gatekeeper orders, because they are usually not even allowed to be taken in for filing at the registry until I've reviewed it and make sure that there is a viable claim in the complaint. So that is a tool.
Thank you. And continuing with the theme of pro se parties, I think one of the tough things is that because judges, of course, can't give legal advice, but they can make sure that the parties understand that the law was fairly applied. And I think that they can go a long way in helping folks understand and accept the decisions of the court. So can you just speak to that?
Sure, I think that, you know, the judges, at least the judges that I've seen, have been very mindful when a pro se litigant is in front of them to educate them about what the law is and what their, especially at a pretrial conference, say, what their burden of proof is, what the standard is. And that is certainly something that the judges can lay that out and, you know, and let the pro se or the self-represented litigant know that, you know, at trial, they're gonna be held to all of the same standards as an attorney would. And so, you know, they should be prepared for that.
And the last thing I want to ask you about is court orders, because as we talked about, in my criminal practice, I have observed that defendants tend to understand what a court order means. You have to do it, it's the rule of law, you may not like it, you can appeal, you can ask the order, you know, the court to reconsider the order, but you're under a court order and you have to do it. And I have observed in probate and family court that there is sometimes not that same level of understanding of what a court order really means. And I think that people can get into difficulty if they don't understand, you know, you're under an order to do this and it's going to be serious if you don't. Can you just speak to that?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of times what happens is court orders will enter and they'll enter in the absence of, say, a defendant in a case. And so the defendant's not there to understand what to be told what the weight of that order. But inevitably it will come back as a contempt. And at that point in time, I mean, a contempt, someone can be held in contempt for not complying with the order. The purpose of
You want to avoid that.
I know you want to avoid
that.
You want to avoid that, but
they need to know you want to avoid
that is exactly right. And so what can be done is, you know, it can be scheduled for a further contempt. So the first contempt, it's like their first bite of the apple. You can explain to them, you didn't comply with this court order. These are the consequences. And give somebody another opportunity and let them know, you know, what your intent is. If you don't comply with this order, you can be held I can hold you in contempt until you purge, until you comply. You know, in fact, we just had a brand new judge last week sit with us, and it was an issue of handing over a passport. Mother was clearly ordered to hand over the passport. And that's exactly what she did. She said, you know, you can hand over the passport, or I can hold you in contempt until you hand over the passport. So, yeah.
Very good. I did really appreciate our conversation. You're very kind. Thank you so much, and I have no further questions.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to turn it over to Counselor Iannella.
Thank you very much. Morning.
Morning.
What's your personal view, to put the position aside of parenting plan, husband, wife, 2 minor children, both parents work? What's the ideal situation for you? We know what's in the best interest of the children. We know that, but what's your, like, you yourself, what's your position?
So I would say, you know, all other things being equal, to the sense that both parents are involved, parents, you know, in their children's lives, and have attended doctor's appointments, make sure that they get to their activities. I think that a shared parenting schedule should be the sort of the presumption. And then from there, you know, other variables can affect that.
I'm not sure what you mean by shared parenting. Shared parenting could mean 90% with one parent, 10% with another. How do you define shared? I don't know what shared means.
Shared is in my opinion, is a pretty equal division of time. So whether it's you know, a week on, a week off, or something that allows some stability for the child, but also allows the child to maintain, a relationship with both parents. Again, with all things being equal, I think that that is in the best interest of a child to have, a strong, bond and relationship with each parent.
No, I got that. I'm gonna be more specific. Do you favor a 50-50? Because I think you said pretty much, I'm asking 50-50.
I think that should be the presumption, yes.
And, would location of one of the parents makes a difference, and what do I mean by that? Let's assume, you live in what town?
Lennox,
Lennox. Not familiar with that, but it's to be honest.
Inglewood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's assume one parent lives 10 miles from the other parent. So they don't live in the same neighborhood, that would be ideal, they live right around the corner. Would 10 miles change your opinion on that 50-50? And the kids are like 7 and 10, got 2 kids in my scenario.
I don't believe that 10 miles would make that much of a difference. I think that at least, although I don't know how long it takes to get 10 miles out here in Boston, but we're.
That's a good question, very good question, very good answer. Let's assume it takes 25 minutes from each parent, you know, the average, it's always different scenarios, but it's gonna be 25 minutes.
You know, 25 minutes, I think you're still within that realm of it, that's not too much of a burden, on the children to be in a situation where, equal parenting time would work. I think when you get to an hour or further on out, you're coming to a point where you've got to start, you know, making different, taking different factors into account, but I think if you're under 30 minutes, I don't think that should really affect it.
What about a situation? Trying to think of okay, so that's not an issue. What about on a parenting plan where it's even agreed upon? And it's 70% for one parent, 30% for the other parent. And they're both not wealthy people. And now the parent who has 30% of the parenting plan, he calls a lawyer up and says, I'm getting screwed. My ex, whatever, husband's brother. Every other week, they say, oh, I can't see the kid. Because of some he or she is sick and this, what can we do? What do you do in a situation if it becomes a pattern? Where the parent who has custody of the children is not allowing, what do you call it, the other parent to, it's making it more difficult for the other parent to see his or her kids.
Yeah, so I think that would probably come in front of the judge in the form of a contempt for, you know, one parent, the more custodial parent not complying with the court order. I think in that scenario, that's what it would be. And I would impress upon the parent who's not complying with the order that there are consequences for not complying with the order. And some of those consequences could be, you know, makeup time, so additional time that's given during a child's break, you know, or that, you know, if the parent with the 30% time could also bring a complaint for modification, seeking to have more time with the child because they're saying that I would comply with the court order. That's something to take into consideration.
Is that something you would really do? Because people don't have a lot of money. Hiring lawyers can be expensive. Downtown Boston, they can charge $1,500 an hour for big time attorneys. I don't believe that work, but that's what I hear. You know, you can stress this, stress that, but what could you really do with a car? They're gonna comply with you all. You get the kids away, what's realistically, other than pressing upon, you must do it, blah, blah, blah. What realistically, because I think the non-custodial parent should be able to see his kids, because that to me is the most important thing.
I agree that, that any parenting time should be honored because that's that parent's time to continue to bond with their child, to it's their right to exercise that parenting time. And I think that, I mean, what could you do? As I said, you can bring.
I'm trying to send you, oh, man. Crazy. Why don't we do this type of one?
So granting that parent makeup time, so let's say they missed 3 weekends in a row, you can say, you can order the non-custodial parent to have additional time, usually during a child's break or summertime or whatever would work.
Yeah, great, what about next week, instead of 4 days over here, 4 days over, some, that's.
I know, it's tough.
Yeah, so.
It's-
This happened in September, you gotta wait, she's gotta wait 9 months, you're gonna get makeup time?
You're gonna make their.
There's more makeup time now, this is serious, it's important for the kids. You can laugh, but it's important, reading a book, brushing their teeth, hugging them when they go to bed, they don't wanna make that up in 9 months, I wouldn't wanna make it up in 9 months.
That was one option, I was saying.
Think about
But so the better option then could be if your scenario is this just happened, say in September. It would be the next weekend, the next week that was supposed to be the other parents, the 70% parents' time, give that to the 30%. The makeup time can be any time. That works, and you're right, if we're not coming up on a break, then a weekend, whatever would work, but I do think it is important that they're entitled to the time that they either agreed upon or that's part of the court order.
No further questions, thank you.
Your Counselor Kennedy.
First of all, I apologize for getting up. I had an emergency motion in court I had to deal with on Zoom. And I kept getting up waiting for them to call it, so I was trying to pay attention to what was going on at the same time, but I finished that. We had a great talk on the phone. I made fun of you a little bit, which I tend to do. But I did tell you that the biggest complaints I get are always about probate judges, and that's the truth. About one side feels it, one side feels it not, but the second biggest complaint I get that I brought up in probate court hearings over and over is how I don't know what you do out in Western Mass, but around here, you start a trial, a judge starts a trial, allot's 2 hours, 3 hours. After 3 hours, they're halfway done, and then they continue the trial for 3 months, which is extremely frustrating for the litigants. 3 months later, the judge may have notes about what happened, but not memory. Because you're handling too many cases, you're not gonna remember that particular case in terms of assessing credibility, witnesses' demeanor on the stand, things like that. What do you do out in Western Mass? And if you do that, what would you do to correct that?
So I think that was an initiative either at the end of the last chief's term or the.
Chief Casey calls it the Kennedy session.
Could have been Chief Casey or it could have been Chief Dunn, I'm not sure, but there has been a real emphasis in the trial court administrative office not to allow that to happen. So if you have a trial that you've started, there's a real emphasis in getting that trial finished. So not starting another trial, even if it means bumping a trial sometimes, but not to try to get within 30 days to try to get a trial finished. And we try to do that.
Why within 30 days? Why not the next day?
Yeah, that's, so if we know it's gonna be a 2-day trial, we can plan for that. If it was just a trial that ran over, we can't plan for that. We have other matters, we have other.
I know a lot of criminal,
Yeah,
start a trial and finish it. They'll bump other things.
we have trial days, we have lobby days, We have open days.
If it's filing over and you have to move the lobby rooms, why not do that? So you finish the file.
We will be able to remove some of the stuff, but, not everything, because the nature of the family court is everybody believes that their case is urgent and important, and you're making.
Absolutely, 100%, but still. It's more, to me, it's more important, once you start a trial, you finish the trial. You know, and then you go on to the next one.
I absolutely agree, and that is the emphasis, we need to make that a priority.
Appreciate that. I don't have any other questions. I told you on the phone I was gonna vote for you. I did see something that talked about, that came from that hearing that you had out in Western Mass, that referred to you as the Oracle of Delphi.
It was a quote.
I mean, I'm kind of full of myself as it is, but I wouldn't consider myself that.
That did not come from me.
I'm just saying. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we've run a little long and I think we're okay on time for a minute, but wrap it up. So I'm gonna, rather than ask questions, I just wanted to share, in addition to the hearing that has just been referred to, where so many positive things were said by so many people, we also received an overwhelming outpour of letters of support that have come from judges and attorneys and probation and court officers and community members, and only just go to reinforce where I started from, which is that you are surrounded by enthusiasm in receiving this nomination and real confidence from the community that you will be an asset to the bench. So with that, I will close out this hearing.
Thank you.
Well, Mike, I hope I never see you again. If I do it, only means my wife's smartened up. We're ready. You're ready. So what you got?
I'd like to recognize Counselor Kennedy for a moment of reflection and for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Well, I'd just like to take a moment and think of our colleague who's in the hospital recovering from surgery and wish her a speedy and full recovery.
You're here.
Congratulations.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Righty. Yep. Okay, I'd like to recognize Counselor Ianella for a motion to record advice and consent for the financial warrant.
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Seconded by Counselor Kennedy. All those in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it. I'd like to recognize Counselor Ferreira for a motion to record advice and consent for the pending list of notaries public and justices of the peace.
So move, Governor.
Second's been made, seconded by Counselor Civil. All those in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. I'd like to recognize Counselor Kennedy for a motion to record advice and consent for the appointment of Connie Wong to the position of Associate Justice of the Boston Municipal Court.
Outstanding nomination. I make that motion with pleasure.
Motion's been made by Counselor Kennedy, seconded by Counselor Ianella. Seeing no other questions or comments, I will go ahead and ask Sonia to please call the roll.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Jacobs,
Yes.
Counselor Ferrera,
Yes.
Counselor Civil,
Yes.
Counselor Dolan,
Yes.
Counselor Ianella.
Yes.
6 members voting, 6 in the affirmative, the matter carries. I don't think we have any other business. I think we've scheduled all of our hearings. You guys have been busy, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Made by Counselor Ferreira, seconded by Counselor Dolan. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed?